Today, I have the privilege of coming to you with a good friend of mine, mentor, friend of many years, by the name of Gerren, fellow entrepreneur, owner of Clean Slate Janitorial Services, and also a speaker, public speaker who travels the country speaking to groups of people in various settings. So, Gerren, thank you.
Yeah,
Welcome today. I
yeah,
appreciate you coming by.
absolutely.
So today we're gonna focus on a concept that's just one word, a word that is so dense in its meaning, it's worthy of a full conversation. And so, Gerren, I want to kick off the discussion today with the idea of resilience.
Mm.
As we now are both leaned into our entrepreneurial um, direction and our focus. The idea of day to day resilience and what it truly means is something you and I get a chance to talk about a lot. We talk about it as this daily commitment or renewal of our purpose, of our focus, of our energies towards a singular goal.
Hmm.
So, can you talk to me a little bit about maybe some recent experiences and effectively how has resilience made an impact on you?
Yeah, I appreciate you. First off, having me here, and this topic, it resonates so much with me right now because every single day I'm realizing how much it comes into play.
Mm.
Even this deep breath that you just saw me take, it's my God. Listen, resilience is the cornerstone of my days,
Mm.
plain and simple. Every day there's a battle of whether or not I'm thinking about the future or I'm thinking about something that I've done in the past. And the challenge is staying in the now. And the reason why I'm always in this state of flux is because we're always thinking, we're always planning as entrepreneurs, we're always looking forward. And um, there's times when you begin to doubt yourself. And in those moments, life doesn't stop.
Mm.
So as life comes at you, how do you then lean in again?
Mm.
Right. So I've learned how to take deep breaths just to be able to pause long enough for me to lean in.
Yeah, so let's talk about that concept of doubt. When
Mm.
as you and I have talked about recently, I've referred to it as the voices in your head,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, as an entrepreneur, you're driven, you're motivated. That's kind of par for the course, right? It comes with the territory.
Yeah.
But when you have those quiet moments where something may not be going the way you want it to go,
Yeah.
where you're tired, right? Where you've got, reality and responsibilities at the doorstep and you don't quite see the path on how to get there.
Yeah.
You talk about these voices in your head. You had a brief period in corporate America before you transitioned to entrepreneurial pursuits.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how different this dynamic is between when you're working for a company and your paycheck is what it is, you can plan and prepare versus what you experience now, and you've been at this for years, so
Yeah.
talk about how that's really transformed you over that time.
Yeah. Yeah. 20 years to be
Mm.
exact. And I'm amazed that I've been out here for such a long period. Um, it's something that I've now gotten used to. That state of being uncomfortable
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
My wife says to me, she's like, Garen, you have your mood swings ever so often, and typically it's every time payroll comes around. Okay. There's so many things that are at play, but the one thing that I enjoy having is having interaction with my employees. And the reason why, it takes me back to the time when I was working in corporate America,
Yeah.
and I get to see things through their lenses. I get to respect where they are, although they don't always understand where I'm at
Mm.
and the decisions that I have to make. But the transition, man, has been it's a significant shift in how you think and how you look at the world.
Mm.
Um, I have friends of mine who are entrepreneurs, and sometimes they make slight comments as though they were an employee just to trigger me because they know that I see things on both sides. Um, and it's just a different world. It's a different it's a different landscape.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely being only a few months removed from that space, you know, the day-to-day, week-to-week requirement to wake up and have an absolute targeted focus is probably one of the most difficult transitions.
But you had a focus before.
Correct. I had a focus before. I considered myself a very driven individual.
Yeah.
My career accomplishments would, you know, from the outside looking in, demonstrate that, oh, you were successful in this space. You reached the place that 99% of people ever reach or never reach in their career.
Yep.
And so I find myself here, right? Effectively, again, back at ground zero for the most part, having to build up. And when you're in corporate America, your schedule is so defined by the objectives of the company, how other people need you to spend time in order to drive their agenda,
Yes.
how you interact with others in order to drive your agenda.
Yes.
You know, that really becomes kind of the routine. When you step into the entrepreneurial space, that muscle to drive an agenda that you built up over years, you wake up that first day and you're like, what am I going to do? I don't have an agenda to drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have a big team to meet with. I don't have clients at the ready that are trusting me to deliver whatever it is I'm planning to deliver for them. And when I recognize I've got to go create that to then be able to use the muscles that I developed in the previous space, man, that's a gut punch. It's a gut punch because it puts you in a place where, for the first time, again, I had to pull on this muscle of resilience that I believe I have. I believe in my heart of hearts that I'm somebody that bounces back fairly well. I've learned not to, you know, keep loading bricks in my backpack. I get rid of stuff and I try to move on.
Yeah.
But when the circumstances of your life change quickly, and you're now forced into this new space where you now have to create what the company before created for you.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a completely different experience
Yes.
or perspective on what resilience means.
And that's what I meant, you know, and you articulated very well. And I'm over here having these emotional responses, right? I chuckled or I smiled when you started talking about your, you know, the shift for you, because I welcome you here, and I recognize that what you're going through is challenging, and as a friend, I have to let you go through it for yourself. You know, it's like we're here to talk it through, but I have to let you go through it because it's an experience that only when I recall when I would call you with some of my challenges, and you were in the corporate world doing your thing. The way that you responded to me was helpful, but it was definitely that's a corporate guy talking to a guy who's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Now, I appreciate our conversation so much more because you're feeling it.
Yep.
Right. And my goal for you is my support for you is for you to stay in the game. Stay in the game long enough to understand it.
Yep.
Understand what it looks like, what it feels like, because what you just said about having to wake up and then create for you, and if it's just you right now, for you to then deliver after you've created.
So you talking about staying in the game. You know, we talked about the voices in your head. We talked about doubt. You know, one of the voices that, especially early days, is the loudest. Is you're not gonna make it. You're not gonna make it.
Yeah.
You know, I think I shared with you, since I have made this transition, the phone has been ringing. And I've had a number of opportunities to jump back into the old pond. New circumstances, but the old pond. And I've turned those opportunities down, right? Not because I'm sure in the path that I'm on,
Right.
not because I'm so financially comfortable that it doesn't matter, not because I believe that something is around the corner that will make all of this go away, but because I believe right now that I'm on this path and journey
Yep.
because I should be. I put 20 years in corporate America. I achieved and learned a ton. And I recognize after this last opportunity that it's no longer for me.
Mm.
And that was very clear to me. It wasn't. This isn't I don't want to work for anybody else. I want to be my own boss. No,
Right.
no, no. I was very fine working
Yeah.
for someone else. I was very fine driving the agenda and being successful in doing it, both financially and otherwise,
Yeah.
of someone else's organization. It wasn't necessarily my pursuit to own my own business as a father, husband of two, husband of two children, or father of two children, husband, etc. So to the person, Gerren, that may be watching this video, that may be about to jump, who thinks I'm so frustrated in my current circumstances that I'm going to jump, what do you say?
Hold tight. Perspective matters, man. Perspective matters. There are a lot of people who want to jump because they're good at a thing, and oftentimes people do reach out to me asking, "Hey, what's it like?" Or "I want to make this move. Should I?" And I'm not necessarily discouraging anyone from not doing it. Again, perspective matters. Do you like the thing that you're good at? Because when you get into business, you'll realize that you're not necessarily doing the thing that you really enjoy doing. Michael Gerber says in the book, he talks about if you're a baker who wants to start a company, you're not going to be baking anymore, right? So if you really love to bake, just go get hired by by a bakery,
Right.
so you can just continue to bake.
Right.
But once you start dealing with invoices, contracts, accounts receivables, accounting, the stuff that I really don't enjoy, even after 20 years, you run into that rut, and then
But Gerren, I'm passionate about it.
I hear you.
I'm passionate about it, and no one else understands my passion.
Yeah.
I'm bursting at the seams
Yeah, yeah.
with ideas and possibility and potential, and my corporate job is just holding me back. I'm taking the leap. What's the response?
Yeah, so this morning I woke up at 3:00. Okay, 3:00 because I couldn't sleep, getting prepared for the week ahead. Rolled over, saw my wife. She's having a nice rest, and my mind was so on fire that I had to engage, and I've been engaged all day long up until this very moment. So I'm not sure that you're prepared for that. People talk about, I'm putting in so many hours for my job. I don't want to do this. I've put in many more hours and made far less than I was being paid before. Are you committed to that? Are you ready for that? Right? Because that's a whole nother ballgame. When you start looking at the numbers and you realize you're making $2 and change an hour because you're putting in so many hours. And a lot of times we're putting in this work, not being paid for delayed gratification. Are you willing to delay your gratification? Because it's not coming just like that.
But Gerren, isn't there a golden chest at the end of the rainbow? At the end of all the effort, aren't I guaranteed to succeed? Aren't I guaranteed to be able to vacation when I want? Buy a second home in the islands.
Right.
Get a boat, whatever it is I'm interested in.
Right.
Isn't that a guarantee? Don't I create value just because of my passion and how I show up every day? Doesn't the fact that I care about something so much guarantee my success?
No. Because what I heard you say, and if you're that person out there, what I hear you say is that's your passion. But as a consumer, if I don't care, I don't care. I'm not purchasing, I'm not buying, I'm not leaning into you. I don't care. So, and then you mentioned this thing about, am I not guaranteed at the end? Going back to that original word of resilience, right? The end is only when we close our eyes. Until then, there will always be challenges. There will always be problems. There will always be room for growth. So how do you then navigate that never-ending story or journey until you close your eyes.
Yeah.
It goes back to that word resilience.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you make that decision, when I made that decision, by the way, I didn't make the decision. The decision was made for me. As we talk about, Gerren and I have talked about, we believe in the spiritual momentum of life and a larger being than us really driving things. And so when that door shut, literally the day before a hurricane was going to hit Orlando, the day a storm started in my physical space, a storm started in my career space the same day. And so as I talked to my wife and reflected on what it is we do next, it became obvious to us that we were at an inflection point of not of our choosing. And so within a matter of days, things started to fall in place. And I wrestled with, is this something we really want to do? If I hit send on this email, or if I hit pay on this, all of a sudden I got a company created. I got a web thing going here. I got all these major decisions that are just happening that signify a new direction. And yes, they're small, but man, are they significant? So to somebody who's like, all right, I'm listening to you guys. I'm not really sure what this means for me. I just know where I am right now. I'm restless in my spirit.
Yeah.
I don't know what I need to do. I don't know where I need to go. I don't know what's next. This concept of resilience, whether it's resilience in my frustration, whether it's resilience in my disappointment, whether it's resilience in my aspirations. Like how does somebody pull that together and say to themselves, okay, maybe it's not my time, or maybe it is, or these guys will know what they're talking about, or maybe I'm gonna be different. Like help the 500,000 people who wait across this video.
Yeah.
Like, what do you say to them?
As you were speaking, I saw no difference between that and my life. It's quite the same. It's choose your hard.
Yeah.
That's what comes to my mind. Choose your hard. Again, your journey, what transpired, when it transpired, I smiled and I welcomed you into this space, because and watching you grow through the space has been a joy for me as a friend. Because you have, again, you said it in the beginning, you have done very well working in corporate America, and you now are choosing a different type of hard. This is of your choosing. And I said to you, my goal is to only support you however you however you're gonna navigate these waters. But I'm proud of you as you navigate these waters. For the people who are out there who are just frustrated, it's just different, but you still have to navigate those kind of emotions, man.
Yeah.
It's no different. So for you, as I watch you, okay, all right, several months in, you're doing your thing. What has it been for you, knowing that with a phone call you can jump ship, and you're still deciding to go down this journey of the unknown? What has that been for you?
It has been probably one of the most challenging, doesn't do it justice. It's been one of the most personally refining processes of my life. And the reason I say that is because I've spent years, self-help books, business excellence books, you name it, building up the vocabulary, building up the concepts of what it means to navigate change and transformation. But saying it and reading it from a position of comfort versus saying it and reading it from a position where it's required are two fundamentally different things. And so I had to look myself in the mirror, and first and foremost, I try I try to call myself out often.
Okay.
You know, you get into these mental spaces where you feel away, I'm having a bad day, the voices start, you know, the negativity and doubt in your mind. And I found it helpful to stop and call myself out loud. James, stop it. You are blessed. You have a family. Look at how much you've accomplished in such a short amount of time. Nothing is guaranteed, but by all means, you also are not tripping over failure every step of the way.
Yeah.
All right? I've had to call myself out to remind me that I'm not here because of an accident. And then I keep moving again. But you recognize, especially in the early days, you're calling yourself out multiple times a day. You're finding any quiet moment where you're not busy, active. It will be like a tornado in your brain where it's just spinning thoughts and anxiety and fear and all these things are going on, and you really don't know how to stop it. And so all those books I read, all of those speeches I heard, all of those things I've engaged with over the years from a position of security now have completely new meaning. So much to the point that I don't really have to go and read anything new right now. I'm replaying and reprocessing everything that I knew in the past because now that it's required of me, it has a whole new meaning. A whole new meaning. Here's the thing. Did I really believe it? Do I really believe it? Or is it just something, is it words in a book that sound good? They make me sound smarter and informed? But do I really believe it? I have to choose to believe it. I have to choose that those words on that page, while they don't match my current circumstances, have meaning and have value, and at some point in the future will manifest in a way that I could reflect back and say they were true. And when you're required to follow it, when you're not following it from a position of just safety and security, completely different ballgame.
100%.
So every day on this journey over the last few months has been some form of that. Some form of reflection, some form of, calling myself out, some form of replaying past conversations, past books, past knowledge and wisdom that I've gained and said, did you really believe that? Are you now willing to put those concepts to the true test? No parachute. Right? It's just you walking a tightrope.
Every day.
Every single day. And when you wake up in the morning, you've got to choose. I know what I'm going to encounter.
Yep.
I choose to go through that crucible.
Yep.
I choose to do it with no guarantee that it will get an ounce better. The only thing you know 100% is that you will have challenges. That's the only thing you know 100%.
100%.
You don't know anything else 100%. So talk about resilience. Talk about what it means in the context of doing something when you are required to be the person who generates, who creates, who builds, who sells, who clean, who does it all, man. When it's just you and there's no safety net, and every day you got to choose, am I going to do this again?
Yes. And for the entrepreneur, until you close your eyes, every day.
Absolutely.
All of that.
There's no retirement plan. There's no vacations. The reality is you own it. You're attached to it. It's a part of you, like another arm or leg.
So to that point where you talked about no retirement plans, granted, there are people who go into business and they're, from the very beginning, they have an exit plan.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. People who have retired really young, made quite a bit of money.
Yep.
And then life still continues.
Yep. And what do they have in common? I've met a number of them. So I know one thing they have in common.
Say it.
They jump back in.
Why? Why do you think that is?
Because there's something to the process and what it does to you from just your inner core. It calls on you and challenges you in a way. It puts you through things, experiences, and puts you in front of people that a permanent vacation just won't do. And you start to atrophy,
Yeah.
right? You built up in many cases in a rapid way. You've built up this kind of strength and all these fantastic traits and habits, and then somebody writes you a check for $100 million. You're like, I'm done, I'm good. And then 2 months in, you're like,
Yeah, ready to go back in.
6 months in, you're like, I'll put the whole 100 million up, put myself back in the hole on an idea or a thought.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Because you miss what it means to be in the process of growth. And even the security of being able to say, I'm financially okay.
Yeah.
Time and time again, you see people say, I will risk it all. Again. To get back into the crucible.
So there's something to that crucible, right?
There's something to the crucible. A crucible refines. A crucible brings the impurities to the top. It allows you in a very authentic way to go through experiences that purify who I am. And for those that may have gone through it, been successful, I won't call names of people, but there's some people, famous businessmen who have gone through things, who have been wildly successful, and they become the titans of industry.
Yeah.
Right? But we have to pay attention. The crucible isn't always my success. The crucible is life. Everything goes in there. And it will refine, it will refine, it will refine, it will refine until you come out what you're supposed to be.
Let's go back to the word passion, though. for the person who's going in, I'm passionate about it.
Yeah.
I don't hear passion.
Bro, passion is passion and lust are synonyms. Both are temporary. With the right engagement, both can be satisfied. And then once we're beyond passion, and reality hits, you're back to
the crucible.
You're back to the crucible.
So what I'm hearing you say is what people don't know that they're signed up for is the crucible.
Correct.
Passion got you into the game.
Absolutely.
If you have enough, what's that word? Resilience. You get to the crucible and it changes. Like your mentality changes about challenges now. Like,
So when you think passion, right? Because passion is so one-sided, it only pulls on the heartstrings of what I want to do. It's not balanced out with what I have to do. And what entrepreneurship does is it pulls on both. It pulls on what I like to do, but it will pull harder on what I have to do. Because the have to is what takes the discipline. It's what takes the grit. It's what you have to every day refine. And if you're lucky, you get to balance that with a little bit of what I love to do. Gerren, you want to clean? Did you love cleaning?
No.
So why cleaning?
Again, and I'm glad that you've been around for quite a bit of these years, man, because people would ask me like, but why would you get into cleaning? I have done so much as a result of the genesis of cleaning. I've done so much, and I've told people in the beginning, it was never about cleaning. It was about people and me wanting to go on this experiment. I didn't think I was going to stay on it this long, but it has gifted to me in so many ways that it still isn't about the cleaning. You've asked me, and people have reached out to me, hey, are you willing to sell? And you would challenge me and ask me, hey, Gerren, if you sold, what lab would you climb into? Right? Because again, if I sold and I had money in my pockets, I'd be bored. Right? Like, I'm going to find something else to experiment with. I mean, that's just the makeup of our... Okay, so I got a question for you. You saw that I worked in corporate America for about 3 years, and then I jumped into entrepreneurship. You have worked in corporate America for 20 years. I had a desire to jump into this.
Yeah.
You you chose, right?
I chose.
Based on circumstances. So
Yeah.
we're climbing into it from two different perspectives.
Yep.
I may want to stay in the murky water because that's just naturally my makeup.
Yeah. That is not my makeup. Yeah.
You see where I'm going with this?
I do. um. Yeah. I mean, jumping in at this point for me was in part a recognition that I have been fortunate to build a network that I built over my corporate years that keeps me connected in my entrepreneurial years.
Keep going.
You know, one of the experiences I had early days that got me to acknowledge to myself on one of the days when I was hearing a lot of voices was this concept of how quickly the phone rang. So I'll never forget, I would let a few folks know, hey, I'm no longer with this company. I moved on, da 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 da. And within 5 minutes, I got a response. Within a day, I had my first phone call. And within 3 days, I had my first client. I had my first client before I even knew how to draft a contract.
Yep.
Before I had a website, I was still using my Gmail to interact with my first client before I got my professional stuff set up, because my network that I was plugged into, who knew my value, had a need and felt like I could help them in a way that I have been helping in my corporate life for the past 20 years. But now it found a place where I was the product. So to the person who did it the way you did it, Gerren, which is the shorter time you had in corporate, the longer time you've had in entrepreneurial pursuits.
Yep.
I imagine building your network was a slow and steady thing. It's still slow and steady for me as people get to know me in a new way.
Yeah.
But my phone is full of people to call.
Yeah.
My phone is full of people who know me and see me in a way that makes what I'm trying to do, that makes sense. James, I always thought if you ever decided to go on your own, you could do a good job. And yes, those are just words from people. Sure. And they might be there just to pacify because they don't know what to say at perhaps could be a difficult time for you. But I take it in and I say, you know what? At the end of the day, whether they realize what they're saying is true or not, what I've seen in my own experience is that those 20 years have set me up for this time. And whether this time, 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, I don't know. What I do know is that what I'm learning in this moment, in the months I've been at this, I could never have learned while I was where I was. And so I'm embracing it for what it is. I embrace the challenge. I embrace the crucible. I embrace everything it's pushing me into and forcing me to reconsider. Even in my own life, financially and otherwise, it has caused me to see things much more clearly than I've ever seen them before. Yeah. And so if that was the reason I'm here, it was worth it. But I have to first and foremost remember that this isn't about me being so passionate or believing in myself that I jumped out. No. This was a carefully considered, prayed about, thought about, you name it, talked about it with my wife, talked about it with family, right? Obviously kept it a little quiet because of the broader circumstances, but I jumped into this with the belief that my 20 years of experience, of all the people I got to know would manifest in a way that would allow me to have some type of start, some type of wind and momentum at my back. So I sit here today, multiple clients,
Yep.
looking at expansion, looking to get into different service lines,
Yep.
right? And I'm a one man band. As we sit here today, I'm a
Yeah.
one man
Yeah.
band.
Yeah.
And to say that all of these things are happening in such a short amount of time, I can't imagine being in this place if I didn't have the 20 years in.
No experience. Yeah. Well. Ah, here's what comes to me. So you mentioned it. So it wasn't that you jumped into it with any kind of passion and all of that, right? The people that you're serving right now, your clients, your initial clients, they are leaning in on you to help them based on what you did over the past 20 years.
Absolutely.
Whether you were passionate about it or not, but you did it well. Going back to the question that you asked about people who just want to get into entrepreneurship, you can get in however you want to. Just know that it's going to be an experience.
Absolutely.
Okay. And when I jumped into mine, I didn't get into it because I loved cleaning, because I loved the cleaning industry. It was about people, right? In this case, it was blue collar people that I was very curious about. And I wanted to learn them and understand how the dynamics of the industry and how they interacted with others and how others looked at them. And it was a game for me, right? And it also became a living for me. And it also opened me up to writing a book and speaking and entering all kinds of rooms. Some people would ask me, hey, Gerren, that other company that's in Orlando, is that your competitor? I'm like, if they're not about people, then like,
We're not selling the same thing.
yeah, if they're about people, then we're in it together too, right? So I'm not looking at people out there, other companies out there as my competitors at all. I'm playing a different game. I'm having fun in the crucible. So as you have found yourself in this state for the reason that you're in it, it doesn't have to matter to the world. However you got in here and whatever the experience is going to be and the experiment is going to be, that's for you. And if after 5 years you decided, you know what, Gerren, I'm going to tap out. I'm going to go back into corporate. You would have learned so much about that other side, that other world, that you would have a different perspective, a different respect for people who are out there grinding.
Absolutely.
That's all. That's my joy.
Absolutely.
With you being in this space.
Well, listen, man, I appreciate the opportunity to have added a layer to our friendship through what is now a mutual experience. And we've always kind of called or texted each other over the years. Those texts and calls now have a very different tone and focus to them. Far more encouragement, far more just sharing the ups, the downs, the good, the bads, the wins, the losses, and reminding each other that there's still more to come. Right? There's still more to be written. Again, I had a thought this week as I was traveling home that, man, what's the worst thing that happened to me this week? The worst thing that happened to me this week. And then I thought to myself, the fact that I could even reflect on it means I survived it.
Was it something that physically occurred, or was it something that occurred in your mind?
Normally it's mental. Normally it's mental. Because even the physical, the hardest part of accepting the physical pain is the mental anguish. Right? It's the acceptance of where I am, what am I experiencing, and how do I see how it impacts me going forward. But as I sat there and I was like, man, James, bro, there's so much to be done. There's, you're pushing on yourself. And you're like, there's some things that happened to me. What was the worst thing that happened to me this week? And then I sat there in it, and those reps of calling myself out, I've seen that muscle develop. And the thought wasn't, you're going to lose, you're a failure, the whispers of all the things that are happening around you. It was, James, you survived it.
This is good work, man. This is good work.
Yep.
And again, all of this refines you. And you said it earlier. It refines you to be a better human, a better person in this world. The work does that.
Yes.
You are recognizing that you are more valuable than the work.
Yes. The work, I'll say it differently. The work only has value because of me.
So I thank God for the work. Um, it's weird to say, especially when you have those tough periods.
Mm.
I mean, we got some good years over the years, man, and some tough years over the years, right? But leaning into who I'm becoming as a result of the work. Um, it's a beautiful thing, man. So it's really cool to be around people who get it,
Yep.
and they get it from this perspective. Yes, I know people out there who want to get into business just to make money.
Yeah.
I got into business to be a better human being.
Mm.
And seeing you shift and change and evolve in this new environment as a friend, brother, this is cool to see. It's cool to see.
The reassuring thing is that the tools I'm developing now, the things that are being manifest in me,
Yeah,
are things that are applicable to every situation of life.
100%.
I can't attribute it to a company. I can't attribute it to a project. I
Yeah.
can't attribute it to, to something that is disconnected from me as an individual. Because I am now the thing that creates value. And I am still connected to being a husband, being a father,
Yeah.
being a son, being a brother.
Yeah.
As I become impacted and changed, it changes and transforms all those other things around me. So if there is a benefit, as we kind of close out, as there is a benefit to entrepreneurship, for those of you that are wondering,
Yeah.
after listening to this conversation, if jumping in or staying out is for you, we can promise you this one thing. Can't promise you money, right? Can't promise you fame. We can absolutely promise you a transformation in your life, or let me say it even differently, an opportunity
Yeah.
to be transformed
Yeah.
by life
Yeah.
that only comes through an experience where you become the focal point of the journey. Thank you for your time today. Gerren, thank you very much for coming over and spending some time with us.
Yep.
Please be on the lookout for more videos like this to come. My commitment is to share my story, share my experiences with you in a way that hopefully you will connect with. Hopefully it will edify you. And if by chance you're looking as to where to find me, EnglishSolutionsGroup.com is my company web address. You will be able to find a bit more about me and what we do here at ESG. You will also be able to find our company's social media pages. Thank you. Have a blessed day.